So the other day, my 7-year-old daughter comes home from school. She bounces in the door with these big, beautiful curls of hers. Hi, Mommy. This is her right here. Right? And I say, how was school, Marlo? And she says, it was just fine. I don't know how many of you are parents. How many of you are parents? Especially the moms, right? No offense, dads, but we kind of tune into this thing. I could just see that even though she had a fine day, there was something just below the surface under that facade. And you know how I know that? Because I do it too. So I said, okay, well, tell me about your day. And it involved eventually sitting down at the couch. And I got down to her level, and I said, come here. And I grabbed her little face, and I said, what's going on? And she told me that earlier that day, someone had pushed her and said something really mean to her at school. She looked like she wanted to scream. So that's just what we did. So I grabbed a couple of the pillows off of the couch. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you to remember that moment. I want you to think about that boy and where you were standing and what you were wearing and all the things, what he said to you and how it made you feel. And I saw her face start to change. And when I saw her really slip into that moment, I said, okay, on the count of 3, we're going to scream. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! And we screamed into that pillow. And she stood there kind of shocked, and I said, what else, Marlo? And she screamed again. And I said, what else, Marlo? And she screamed again. And you know what? I heard not only about that boy, but about many other times in her life where that had happened to her. Things that upset her, things that she was upset about in her life, or mean kids at school or whatever the thing. And we did this until there was nothing left. She stood up and she said, okay. And she bounced off the rest of her day with those curls. So I just really reflected on how easy it was for her to slip into just screaming like a wild banshee. It was just very effortless for her to do this, to look silly, to be loud, to all the things. And it reflected on like, gosh, that really worked. And it felt really good. And you know what? It was just in time because the next week was one of the hardest weeks of my life. Lots of things in lots of areas of my life were happening. And I thought to myself, damn, I really want to scream. But I didn't, of course. And I didn't want to do it in front of my husband or my children. So instead, I found myself in my car at various moments in various parking lots. I didn't have a pillow, but I rolled up the windows and I sat there and I screamed. What else, Megan? And I screamed. What else, Megan? And I screamed until nothing was left. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it was loud. And yeah, I saw people walking by, and I thought to myself, they must think I'm losing my mind. But really, I was coming online. I felt a lot better. And it got me thinking about what happened? Like, how does screaming and acting like that, how does that work? Why did that work? And so I started to research, and I found this amazing research by these 2 doctors, Emily, yes, and Amelia Nagoski. And it's all about this thing called the stress cycle, completing the stress cycle, or emotions processing. And they liken it to what happens in the wild. So let's envision for a moment. This is where it gets really interesting. A gazelle being chased by a lion. It senses some threat. It starts to run. It realizes it's not strong enough to fight, and it's not fast enough to run away. So it freezes. It has the choice in that moment how to respond to the threat, and it freezes. It plays dead. And when the smug lion wanders off to go get its cubs to feed on this gazelle, it takes off the brake from the central nervous system. It chooses to take off the brake, and its body completes the cycle. It starts to shake, it starts to shudder, it goes like this on the ground. They have images of this, a video of this. This is a real thing. And once it's done completing the motor patterns from that threatening situation, it gets up, it dusts itself off, and it bounces off, just like my daughter. Probably not with the curls, though. Now, that may be fine in the wild, but you know what? In the world of humans, that's not what we do. We just stop it right there. We shove it down, and it gets stuck in there. We, in the world, do not have a process to go fully through all of the emotion. There's something that says, the body records and the mind transcribes. So I believe what happens is once we freeze and we don't complete that cycle, we fill in the rest of the story. For me, when I was my daughter's age, I went to Disney for a week, and I missed learning about time telling. And still to this day, I swear, I cannot tell time unless it's digital. And I've lost out on a lot of really cool watches because of it. But it's my story. I can't tell time unless it's digital. But for her, maybe it was that she was unlovable, or ugly, or stupid, or in the way. Whatever had happened that made that boy act that way with her. That was a story that she could have told herself the rest of her life. It feels so important for us to know this. It feels so important for us to live in a world of sufferers and screamers and people who aren't afraid to get angry and just finish that whole process out. My mom recently said something to me, and she said, what we don't give up, we pass on.
Oh my God.
This is the opportunity and the invitation for the world, especially those of us raising the next generation. What does it look like if we experience the full range of emotions? The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. What would the story of the world be then? Made me really think about what was possible for her. Then it really made me think about what was possible for me. Giving myself permission to live in the freedom of my soul. Made me think about other women I know, other mothers. If those mothers are uncomfortable with their own emotions and not giving themselves permission to express their own emotions, how are they letting their daughters and sons feel comfortable expressing theirs? There's this beautiful book called The Body Keeps the Score, in which the doctor reports that which cannot be expressed to the mother cannot be felt. I had no idea that day that I gave my daughter permission to feel. And to heal, really. What would the world look like? So right now, we're gonna go on and talk about what your 7 permission pillars could be, your unique ones in life. But before we do that, I'd like you to reach under your seat. This is your permission slip. If you're not comfortable granting yourself permission, I grant you permission. What's one place in your life right now you can declare and commit to giving yourself permission? Either to go for that thing that you desire, to move away from that threat, to experience an emotion, to scream, maybe to allow anger, experience pleasure. Make a choice. Change your mind. Say no. Let go. My favorite thing in the world is to say, life is messy, not you. So I grant you permission to go be that messy miracle that you are. All right, let's get started.